Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Chitralekha Banerjee, your host for the evening. I welcome everyone present here today to our knowledge discussion organized by the Public Relations Society of India, Kolkata chapter. PRSI is the National Association of PR practitioners across the country with 22 chapters. The pandemic has forced us to stay indoors. Face to face meetings have been replaced by virtual ones. The process of communication must go on. In fact, PR, advertising, and event management are the domain areas where maximum growth and job opportunities lie in the upcoming future. Our today's webinar, Unfolding Opportunities 2020, will highlight the emerging trends and upcoming opportunities. Real people, real experiences create real impact. And it's always a joy to host a discussion like this. Joining me today are my co-hosts, Mr. Somojit Mahapatra, Chairman, PRSI Kolkata, Mr. Amarpreet Singh, Chairman, PRSI Kolkata, and Mr. Somojit Mahapatra, Chairman, PRSI Kolkata.
I guess there is some technical issue with Chitralekha. Okay, viewers, till Chitralekha is able to connect with you all.
Yeah. Let me
Yeah.
welcome. I do not know what
Yes,
happened. Maybe some technical issues. We will formally introduce. Not so with us today, our moderator, Professor Rajesh Shishodia, and with us today, Ms. Sharina Kapani, and with us today, Mr. Amarpreet Singh and Ms. Shaili Arzani. Welcome all of you to Kolkata virtually, though you are in Kolkata, Mumbai, and Dubai. And in this situation, we have developed a new model, cost-wise, very effective and economic model, but we are discussing. And you all people are in the public relations, advertising, and event management. And so when we had a talk with Professor Rajesh Shishodia, we thought this will be the proper topic for today's discussion. And the opportunities today unlimited before the students, before the professionals, everybody. So we hope that all of you will deliberate in this panel on those points where the audience will gain much. And today the whole event is being streamed live on Facebook and YouTube. So thousands of people are watching the show. Over to you, Rajesh Shishodia.
just now we are connected, I guess. Shaili ma'am, Amarpreet Singh sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I guess we should start. Some technical issues are there with sir, and prior to me, Mr. Somojit Mahapatra, Chairman PRSI, was addressing the gathering, and on behalf of PRSI, I welcome all our audience, mostly young teachers, academic persons, and students across India. We have some people joined in from Kerala, someone is from Jammu, and two or three from abroad also. So with me today, we are having Shaili Arjani, one of the well-known PR and brand management person in the country, and she is working with 6 Degrees BCW Mumbai. And ma'am, we are very fortunate to have you today with us, and we hope that your session will be very enriching for the young minds. We have Mr. Amarpreet Singh, a brand strategist. He is from Kolkata, and prior to this, he has worked for many reputed brands across India. And he will be speaking on the advertising industry today, and the trends and the future jobs and future prospects. And the most special person with us is Sherina Kopani ma'am. Ma'am, thank you so much. We all know that you are in Dubai, and today some health issues are there, some COVID cases are there in her neighbor, and she has to shift. And in the middle of all this, you are attending this, you are addressing us, joining us. For that, I thank you so much from behalf of all the speakers, panelists, and PRSI. So I guess we should start with first. I would like to invite Sherina ma'am, but if I would like to request Chitralekha ma'am that is it possible for you to share the PPT presentation of Sherina Kopani ma'am? Chitralekha, can you hear me?
Sir, can I
Okay,
share my screen? I can share my screen and share the presentation.
okay, ma'am. Just
Let me
try.
try to do
If,
that.
yeah, yeah,
Just, yeah, there
yeah.
it
We can see.
is.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
just, yeah.
I would like to invite you, and now audience is yours. Floor is yours, ma'am. Most welcome.
So thank you very much, Professor Sisodia. Good evening to everyone, to my fellow participants, Ms. Shelley, Mr. Amarpreet, Honorable Chairman of PRSI, and Professor Sisodia. Thank you very much for the invitation and the honor and the time that you have given me to present my thoughts on unfolding opportunities within PR in 2020. And I welcome all your students and your audiences. Just to give you a quick insight into my background, I have been running a company called Sun Strategic out of Mumbai for the past 8 years. And prior to that, I have been working in the field of technology and marketing in 4 different countries for about 12 to 13 years. So, almost about 2 decades of experience in PR, in marketing, in marketing technology around the world. And the most enriching has been here in India. Currently, I am in Dubai. We've just opened one of our offices here, and as luck may have it, I've been stuck here for about 9 months or 10 months now due to COVID. So, keeping that in mind, I also wanted to, include the public relations and advertising aspect of during and after COVID, which I think will be very enriching for some of the students, so they can understand where their lives are going. As 2020 is almost over, we are in the last quarter of 2020. So, with having said that, we can just begin. If we can go to the next slide. I want to apologize that my camera is not working today, as Professor Sisodia has informed everybody. There has been an issue where I am currently, so please bear with me and focus more on the presentation. I think that will suit most of your audiences. So, just to give a quick background about the company that I started about 8 years ago, we've been in the news ever since we started. A lot of the PR that we do for our own company is around some of the wins, and also a lot of the PR we do around a company is around the people who work for us. So just wanted to give a quick background and a quick snapshot into what Sun Strategic is. So we started this company with the aim of helping women, primarily in terms of equipping them in the arena of advertising, in the arena of marketing and technology, and giving them careers. We have so far shaped the careers of 72 women who had never had a career before working with us, and also have gone on to, becoming freelancers and having their own individual setups. So we are really, really proud of the work that we're doing. Currently we are about a 80 people team, and serving clients around India as well as overseas. So just wanted to give a little bit of a background in terms of where I come from. So I started this company on my own. We don't have any partners or investors, and we have been growing in the field of PR and marketing organically. As luck may have it, a lot of Professor Sisodia students have come to work with us, and one of the best experiences I can very quickly say is that recently in April 2020, Sun Strategic won the best PR initiative for Urban Clap, and most of the people working on that project were from Professor Sisodia's class. So thank you, Professor Sisodia, for enriching my company with a lot of the students from Amity, as well as students who are in the PR stream of work. If we can go to the next slide. So just to give a quick so that we have a level playing field of what does public relations mean. It in very simple layman's terms, it's a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their public, right? So PR can be B2B and B2C. How has COVID changed the workplace? So of course, in my experience of the 2 decades, I would say I have worked with a lot of teams which have been remote. You maybe managing 200. At one point I was managing 200 people, which was placed these people were placed across the world. So working from home or working remotely is not very new to me. But COVID-19 has changed the workplace. It's changed the workplace, at least in terms of how us Indians also work, and it has had an impact. So coronavirus pandemic has had an impact directly on the jobs of PR professionals. And if you see the first point, it says 28% of PR professionals. This is globally, this is not in India. These numbers are for global. So 43% were asked to take a pay cut, 27% have reduced hours, and this could be up and down in terms of the numbers, and in terms of, I think, as the days progress, maybe these will become better or maybe they'll become worse. We don't know. There's no way for anybody to guarantee that yes, you will have a job tomorrow, you will not have a job tomorrow. But what I can say is that there is a need for people in this particular field who are coming on as freelancers or consultants, and more than agencies. From what I have seen in the 6 degrees of separation and the network that I have, companies have been pitching to clients remotely, and using Zoom and other technologies. And of course, the PR partnerships, many clients have put them on hold. Many clients are looking at it as an opportunity to now create a very good and a solid ground, so that once they come down, come out of the lockdown and they come back to a little bit more of a normalcy, they can go full speed ahead with their PR campaigns. And of course, due to the slowdown, the traditional PR has taken a hit in some of the states, even in India, where the World Health Organization guidelines are very strict in terms of printed newspapers and circulation publications that are in circulation, as well as the magazines. So it's a little bit all over the place, but I would say more than the other Marcom arenas, the PR people are less impacted. Now, how do companies view PR during COVID? There are two different I would say, completely opposite viewpoints. Some people say, some companies say it's not an essential service for us, and some of the big players are taking a backseat. But having said that, there are small and medium enterprises who are actually increasing their sales, and mostly in e-commerce. We've seen that one man's sinking ship, or one man's Titanic is another person's safety net. So definitely there are big players in the industry that are using PR as a brand recall value tool, as well as they want to create certain campaigns which will then take up the momentum once the normalcy resumes. So there's both sides of the coin right now. um, to the people who are looking for jobs, and who have just graduated, or who are looking for internships or looking for opportunities, the one thing that I can say about the pandemic is, don't let it bring your spirit down. It is actually a positive thing for most people who are going into the job market, because this is a time where you can actually interview the employer as well. So couple of things to look at, companies who, or brands who think like this. So for example, if a brand says, I can do my own PR, or PR is the same as media relations, or PR is the same as advertising, or I only do PR when I'm in trouble, or B2B PR is not worth investing. These are, things that, these are red flags that a student, or a young woman or a young man going into the job field, and into the industry as a whole, should keep these in mind, because it will tell you the longevity of the employment that you're about to get, basis the thought process of what that company is believing in, and what that company is promoting. So these are some of the things that I would like to address to the students, that right off the bat, please understand that when you're going for a PR job, you're not just going for a job, you're actually going to go and sign up for the next 1 year, which is a year that none of us in our lifetime have witnessed. It's a year full of a pandemic, and the kind of the work ways and the work tools and the economic structure that we are in has never been seen before. So please be very careful. So let's say now you got a job. Have you essentially failed? Most likely, yes, because most of the companies and most of the jobs that are available right now are looking for you to become a keyboard warrior, right? Go and write a listicle, or go and write up certain research papers, which we will just kind of release everywhere. So again, be very careful that you do not become a keyboard warrior when you're looking for a job within the PR arena and the industry. And what do I mean by this? So I'm going to explain to you what that means. So 70% of the consumers in 2020 do not trust PR, and 42% distrust advertising, calling them remote, unreachable, self-serving, etc., etc. Now, why am I putting this out there? I run an agency. I have amazing clients. Thankfully, we've got amazing people working for us, and as do the other panelists here. They come from very good backgrounds. So why am I putting this out here? The reason I'm putting this out here is because of social listening. So we did some, if you could go to the next slide, please. We did some research in terms of what do customers actually think of, and who are these customers? These customers are B2B companies who we serve. So what do they actually think of advertising currently? So there's a negative connotation to advertising and PR and marketing because of budget. We all know that. But since 2020 is almost over, the trends in 2020, from where we see these trends, 90% of these brands were utilizing video campaigns on YouTube. Why? Because suddenly social media and electronic platforms are being used in 7x or 10x in terms of the usability and in terms of the reach. What do we see in 2021 and what do we see in 2022? So in 2021, definitely we see a lot of socially driven PR, again, around, in and around the pandemic, in and around what is the new normal. We see at least 50% of the millennials, they want PR of a brand to talk about some kind of a social issue and a public stance. There are plenty of social issues that are happening in India as we speak, and a lot of the brands are being negatively hit also, and a lot of the brands who are taking a positive, I think Make My Trip is one of those brands that I would encourage a lot of students to kind of go and see how Make My Trip. Please, could you go back to the previous slide? is doing their PR activities, how HUL is doing their PR activities. And also 60% of the millennials, they want to purchase only if they believe that the company or the brand stands for something that they believe in, right? Let's talk about 2022 in just one line. I would say 2022 is going more towards, I would say more second half of 2021 and 2022 and beyond, we are going all into AI, we're going into technology driven PR. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, because this whole session is about what is the future, what is, what is the trends, what are the things that one may want to open themselves up to, at least to have a, holistic knowledge about where is PR going. So PR is obviously changing from traditional PR to consumer data driven PR and predictive PR. So I want to talk a little bit about what's coming up, which is reputation management, if you can see, which I circle around, and it's written in red. And then we'll go into a little bit in terms of what is predictive PR and how do we use technology, and look at how, let's say a Facebook releases its attribution, and how do we look into those keywords, and how do we look at search. So I'm going to go a little bit more technical into that. But before that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the reputation management. So I'll go to the next slide. Okay, so what do brands want, and how do they keep the audience trust, right? So at the end of the day, any PR activity, advertising activity, marketing, reaching out to your consumer or reaching out to potential consumers, the one thing that the brand needs to maintain or develop or kind of work upon is trust. So trust needs to be owned and managed by the team that knows their audience and communication best. And this is where I would bring in the reputation management of a brand, which is now moving from traditional. I'm not saying traditional is dead. I'm saying it's moving from traditional and going to online. So if you say online PR, I'll give it a more sophisticated twist in calling it online reputation management. So 90% of the consumers are most likely to trust brands that provide personalized offers and recommendations, and fake PR is no longer acceptable. So what does fake PR mean? So if you see this, the lady on the right, it says 45% have said that they found something in an online search that made them decide not to do business with somebody. When you say not to do business with somebody, when you go buy a bottle of shampoo, you are doing business with the shampoo manufacturer, correct? So a lot of consumers currently are looking at, number one, whether the PR and the campaigns that a brand releases is in sync with the belief system of that consumer. Number two, is it appearing to be fake? Number three, is it something that they found which is inconsistent, and they're looking at all of this data online. So a lot of the PR agencies and companies or divisions of larger companies are looking at branded search terms, and they create content to address these searches, and that's where the trend is going. And of course, it's been like this for the past 2 years, I would say, but now it's taking up more momentum and gathering more momentum, because obviously the two mediums of PR, one of them is an online medium. Now, why I have highlighted the word search, we'll go into the next slide, and we'll kind of dive a little deeper into it. So I wanted to provide, how does this is from an American research journal, but I wanted to provide, and you can take a screenshot of this, as to how do consumers use the internet to research before making a purchase, right? So you may release a lot of bytes, or headlines, or short articles, or listicles about the brand, and you may about the product. But how do consumers actually consume that particular content that you're putting out there? So if you can go to the next slide, this slide, if you can just, no, sir, one slide before this. One slide before this, if you don't mind. So this slide is going to talk a little bit about, and I wanted to kind of show people that how not only do consumers look at PR releases, or they look at the data that they're looking at before making a purchase, but even employers, so employer branding, and in terms of employer branding is just catching on in India right now, but a lot of the employers are also doing PR activity online based on search to attract the best talent. So if you're looking for a job, definitely look at how the employer has done their branding, because you will see certain trends that are coming up from that employer branding, which is using technology and using certain content which has been searched the most. So this is something that, as an experiment, I would encourage the students to go and see how the prospective employer that they want to go and work for, how they are doing their employer branding using keywords. So this is something that, take away from this slide, and homework for some of the students. If we can go to the next slide. Okay. So in the previous slide, we saw that 98% of the consumers trust peer recommendations online in terms of more than a PR driven article. So here PR, I'm going to rename that as perception relations, which is through online content, which is driven by online search. So search means online reputation, which means technology driven content and interactions, right? So we've now connected the dots, and we said, okay, first of all, people are looking at data on an online medium to see whether they want to do business with that brand or not. Yes, they will find some PR related articles. They'll also find different kinds of branding exercises that that brand has done. They'll find a lot of what their peers have said about that particular brand. They'll do their own little exercise in being a little detective to figure out whether they want to engage with that brand or not. And so now we have evolved from traditional PR to perception relations. And we are going to use online content, and we are going to use a power of search to now create an online reputation for a brand, which is basically today's current scenario and tomorrow's scenario as well. So if we can go to the next slide. Okay. So if we can safely say one thing for 2020 and the years to come, online reputation is going to be forever. Okay. So anybody in PR today is going to look at effective PR headlines through online reputation, through maintaining an online reputation of that brand. Like I said, there are lots of keyboard warriors out there who can just pick up an Instagram, or they can pick up a Facebook, or they can go to the YouTube and write whatever they want. And God forbid, if that brand has a blog, or if there is a PR article that has been released by that brand on maybe a news publication online, anybody can use the power of the keyboard, and give their 2 cents on what they think that brand is. It doesn't matter how hard that brand is working. It doesn't matter what social causes the brand is in. It doesn't matter what are the top advantages of using that brand's products. None of that matters. What matters is the keyboard warrior who's going to take that 2 seconds of his or her life and go and write a positive or a negative thing about that brand, right? So how do we actually find what has been written, and how do we kind of counteract that, and also how do we kind of use this to our advantage, because we are in the digital age of PR and advertising. So search algorithms prioritize the popularity of a particular brand. So this is something which is very important for students to understand, that when you are looking at doing a PR activity for a brand, or another human being, for example, you are going to look at that platform that you're going to be working with, and how does the search algorithm of that platform work. So that's number one. Number two, do companies trust their reputation to be accurately represented by an algorithm? So let's say you are looking at doing a particular PR activity on Instagram. Now, does this company, and I may give you a very logical example of, let's say, a pharmaceutical company. So does a pharmaceutical company that is wanting to promote an over-the-counter, let's say, cream, are they going to be in tandem? Do they believe that the algorithm and that an Instagram, and by releasing something on an Instagram in terms of a PR article or in terms of a campaign, will that algorithm actually bring out the truth of that particular brand? If not, then the PR agent needs to develop an online reputation management strategy. So how do we develop that, right? How do we figure out that we are going to put out a PR article, and it may not be through a Facebook or an Instagram, it could be through a different publication. There are so many. So Bloomberg has 20 different publications, India Today has, and so many others. They have these publications online. So how do we kind of strategize that we are going to create the right reputation for our brand, and that brand also believes in that. So find high traffic articles that are negatively reflecting the brand. So if you're looking for employment, here is a homework activity that you can go and see what are the negative articles written for that particular brand. Are there some guides to that particular brand? Are there stories which seem that they have been planted? Are there competitor comparisons? And what are the positive stories looking like, right? So as a brand, the brand would want the positive stories to be in the first page or the second page of the search results, and nobody wants something negative written about them. So it's something which is a very basic human tendency. Today you have a friend, and the friend speaks garbage about you. You will want to go and erase that. In terms of whether that is true or not doesn't even matter. Most people would not want that. So the similar way, you are now fighting this fight within the PR, public relations or public perception, but on a digital platform. And the digital platform can be your friend, as opposed to being it taken as a dangerous vehicle. It can be a friend if you know where the pitfalls are. And here are the pitfalls. The pitfalls are, so like as an agency, we go and look before we even sign up with a brand to take on their PR. We go and do a thorough competitor analysis, not in terms of what the competitor is providing to the audiences, but more in terms of what is the negative content that is out there for the competitor versus the brand that we want to handle. And how do we shape that in a way where the sometimes the negative also comes into can be turned into a positive. And when your audiences see the negative being turned into a positive, it shows something called an initiative, right? So you have to use the right platform. You have to make sure that the algorithm supports your intent, and you also have to make sure that the brand is fully confident that the algorithm and the platform, whatever you're using, plus the content, plus the keyword and the searches, will help in the greater good of creating a better reputation for that particular brand. So I'll go to the next slide, if I can request you to do such a thing. Thank you. So again, coming back to technology, the key, the future for, I would say, for professionals in PR and marketing is to have instant access to data. First of all, know where to look for data. Secondly, get your hands on the right data and metrics for online reputation and online PR, right? So now there is a new news cycle. We are no longer living in the pre-pandemic era. The news cycle itself has completely changed. The bits which are being released on a YouTube by every brand or even publications, that cycle has changed. So you need to first follow up on what is the piece that you are actually looking to counter, or the piece that is giving you the data. Secondly, a messaging revamp through ads. So 90% of your consumers, like I said, are more likely to trust brands that provide personalized offers and recommendations. So PR has to have a take and a say in what the audience is saying, and you have to dish out that PR to the right eyeballs. Again, I'm going to say keyboard warriors is one thing that you should keep in mind, and the second is who is the audience that is consuming the PR content that you're putting out there. Micro moments. So this is something that is changing the shape of PR forever, right? I mean, look at Twitter. Twitter started micro moments many years ago, but today, if you look at the new technology driven industries, so for example, anything that's automated, and working on AI or automation, for example, cybersecurity, digital health, telemedicine companies. I mean, I can give you this, that I was sitting with the chairman of Novartis in a session where I was shadowing this gentleman for the whole day. And I cannot tell you, this happened about 4 years ago, and I cannot tell you the number of digital health and telemedicine proposals that this gentleman received in a span of 5 hours. And the challenge was not how do we bring digital health solutions to India. The challenge was, how do we communicate that message so that people buy in and they have, some sort of skin in the game when we go and launch the digital health, or we launch a telemedicine. And same for fintech and, HR tech and e-commerce. So currently, if I were to go and look around the across the board, I would tell you that gaming and e-commerce are the top revenue earners of today. I'm sure my respected panelists will have their
Yeah.
views on it, but from where I'm coming from, e-commerce and gaming, I mean, markets are booming. Anything with technology, fintech, markets are booming. Now, the problem that these people are having is that they are trying to fill that gap of traditional PR, and this entire challenge that has been brought up by the pandemic, with online reputation. But people, most of these companies are missing out on micro moments, and we can talk a little bit more about that in the next few slides. Of course, crisis and internal comms, again, these are the two areas that the industry can count on for the foreseeable future, because analytics and different analytical tools will help us track website visits. They'll help us with how the content is being disseminated to the right eyeballs. Again, when it comes to crisis management, a lot that is going on in the news circles today. There's a lot of new channels that have come up, representing different political parties. If you go on YouTube, there's, I think, about 100 different channels that have popped up with which are using micro moments, which are doing crisis management just for political parties. What is this? This is a new age PR, right? This is perception management. This is online reputation management for those political parties. And it is very interesting. So I can, name a few that I follow. One of them is Pyara Hindustan. Another one is Capital TV. And you will see how they are using micro moments to change the perception of those political parties or of that particular brand that they are supporting. Very, very interesting to study this on YouTube. Of course, publicity is absolutely crucial. It doesn't matter whether we are in a pandemic or not. Companies are going to produce consumer goods. Consumers are going to keep consuming those goods. So definitely a good PR story, regardless of what is going on, is very, very effective, and it is more effective than being on the front page, because that story can go viral. So we are very lucky to be living in an age where we have electronic media that helps us make a story viral, right?
Right.
So recently, I think one of the travel aggregators came out with a story that there's a movement that's going on in India, where if these aggregators are not signing up Bollywood faces, then the greater public in general, when they can travel, will sign up with that particular travel aggregator. So this is how I would say that, the PR is using micro moments. It's using the new news cycle, and it's also using the keyword and the search, which is your SEO, to turn around and to create a momentum for when the new normal arrives, right? Because currently the normal is not what we are used to. So if we can just go to the next slide. Okay, so 100% of the companies, big or small, will need reputation management. So I call reputation management, which is what my company does, a subset of PR, right? So if you look under 2021, AI driven action against illegitimate attackers. Like I said, there's a lot of keyboard warriors that we have across India, and a lot of spam, a lot of negative content, a lot of fake content. So we call them illegitimate attackers, right? So we definitely, so this is where the opportunity lies, is where AI as well as content which is written by content writer, somebody in the PR industry, will take an action against these illegitimate attackers. Bots are being used for responses to consumers. This is happening across the board. You pick any of the biggest brands, and you go and write a comment on their product anywhere electronically, or you send out a tweet to them, there's going to be a response that will come back to you within 24 hours, and most of them are used by bots. But don't be scared of bots, because bots are again man-made, and bots need content that go into them. And so there is an amazing opportunity for students of today to kind of delve and get their hands dirty in this particular area. Real PR agents, right? So real PR agents are you and me. Evaluate the potential of a story on a lead generation. So again, creating data, whether this story will uh, eventually lead to getting a lead for that, which it will eventually lead you to generating a lead for that particular brand. So that is also another arena which has opened up electronically, and people can work from home to actually get into the PR industry through this. Focus on private conversations with consumers. Like I said in my first slide, in 2020, people were purchasing based on personalized offers and personalized campaigns. And so now we're coming to a little bit more evolved part of that, which is private conversations with consumers. I cannot tell you how much that helps. So for example, we have an e-commerce giant who is a client of ours, and we're doing private conversations with their consumers, and we are turning them into actual consumers, as in that conversation they are placing their orders. So this is part of a subset of reputation management, because we're not looking at advertising to that consumer. We're looking at having a real conversation. What is that real conversation? It is a perception driven conversation that we are having with the consumer on behalf of the brand, and we are turning them into a from a potential to a consumer. So we're doing that. And of course, another area where technology comes in is the spyware to track competitor bidding. I think a lot of the students know a lot about the SEO. A lot of the students know what the bidding war is. And if you don't know what the bidding war is online, please Google the word CPC, please Google the word search, please understand how the algorithm of every electronic platform that we are currently using works, and you will understand the bidding war and how the ceasefire happens between different brands, right? So again, the 2022 and beyond is individual driven PR, which will use, I'm just putting Google keywords as is a part of the keywords, but it's going to use keywords. It's going to use a bidding war. It's going to use, and I think currently we have a bidding war that's going on. So if you want to use, look at some case studies on bidding wars between brands online, and how they use they use those keywords to create PR articles. Definitely, there's lots of data available online. And how will the predictive PR? So this is, we are now moving into the predictive PR, right? If we are already seeing what brands are bidding on keywords and how they're bidding on these keywords, and some of these keywords run in millions of dollars, then you are then creating a predictive sort of PR for your brand, because you know now that this is a keyword that is the most used, and I need to keep that keyword as part of my press release. So if you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so just a very quick snapshot of a PR worksheet for 2020. And I would encourage a lot of the students and the teachers to take a screenshot of the next one. But before we go to the next one, PR is no longer public relations as far as I'm concerned. It's more about perception relations and online reputation driven by data. So now if we go to the next slide, you'll be able to take a screenshot of this, and you'll see where you stand with your brand in terms of how they have scored, and are they ready for the next for the coming decade, and how the PR teams are working, and are they in tandem with the trends of putting the micro moments and the headlines and using the algorithms and using the bidding war and all of these things, or are they still very aligned to the traditional PR and what score they get, right? So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. You can take a screenshot of it and do your little homework in terms
Right.
of, or at least keep this in terms of even if you're going for an interview or you're talking to a prospective employer, ask them these questions which are listed on this PR worksheet, which is used for the new decade. So if I could just request for the next slide, please. Okay. So, just to kind of recap everything that I have talked about, and I think I've taken way more than the time that was allotted to me. Public relations is a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their public. This is the simple layman definition of PR. I'm talking in the second point talks about the Facebook and the Twitters and the blogs and the various different social media outlets that have transformed this relationship. So, as a PR, as somebody in the PR industry, you should definitely be very aware of how these platforms are used or can be used to enable positive perception and reputation building. Social engagement is part of the news cycle. So, like when I said a couple of slides ago, that you should be very aware of what the new news cycle looks like. What I mean is that, look, we're not in the traditional advertising space. We're not in the predictive advertising space. We're somewhere in between, right? So we are using PR and we're using social engagement and we're using technology to shape the image of brands, especially in a very unique circumstance, and that is that of a pandemic. Online content, only 28% of the words are likely to be read, right? So this is a very, very important point, because when you're typing out long listicles, or you're typing out PR headlines, or you're typing out a PR press release, you've got to be sure that only 28% of those, or let's say 30%, to take an average of those words that you're actually putting out as a press release are going to be consumed. So your press release better be equipped with those keywords and those search words that are trending, and there's a bidding war on those, because that's how your positive perception is going to be arranged much higher in the list than the negative press releases, or than anything that is being attacked by a competitor, right? So to optimize attention, condense the content. This is not what traditional PR teaches us, but the electronic PR is more about condensed content. And it's about storytelling and image building, right? Because that's going to be constant. What is PR? It's perception relations or public relations. You are selling a story, you are selling that image, you are creating an image, and you're creating an image that goes in tandem with the values of the consumer. And how are you going to do that? We live in very lucky, I mean, we're very lucky to live in such times where we have this data, and we have various data techniques, we have data analytics, we have location based analytics right at the tips of our fingers. And we can create consumer specific content from this data. I mean, it cannot get easier than this. Companies need to be armed with data as a basis of dependable and influential stories in order to rise above the competition. No matter which algorithm you're using, this is something that is never going to change. And of course, the future of PR is going to be dependent more and more and more on analytics as we start using electronic platforms, and we change and we hop between electronic platforms on a daily basis. So yesterday TikTok was one of the biggest platforms, and today it's no longer there. So these algorithms and the investment that goes into creating this kind of stories and campaigns, as a PR individual, you should be on top of your game to understand where the next algorithm is going to come from, and how do you take advantage of that, which means that which is the next application or next platform that is up and coming, and how do you use it, right? So if you can go to the next slide.
Can we move the slide?
Yes, sir. Next slide, sir. I think next slide is the video.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
If you could just play the video, sir, because I would like your.
Are you frustrated with the negative reviews on your online business? A bad online review can make or break your business perspective. Sun Strategic has helped different businesses to build an image and grow online. We offer 24/7 services in different countries in over 18 languages. We provide quality content to drive large traffic. and improve user experience and leave customers negative to positive. Over the years, our clients' sales have raised from 55% to 92% with 100% client satisfaction. Contact us today to enhance your lead conversion and see the difference for yourself.
So I just wanted to give a. This wasn't an advertising exercise. This was more in terms of what Sun Strategic does in terms of online PR and online reputation
Yeah.
management. And this was just a snapshot of what we do. So if anybody would be interested in getting more knowledge, my email and I'm also available on Instagram, please, and also on LinkedIn. So please feel free to reach out. And I thank you again very much for the time that was given to me and the honor of presenting to the esteemed panelists, as well as chairman of PRSI, as well as Professor Sisodia, and your students and all the respected teachers that are part of the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And as I have noted that through your talk, we all have enriched our experiences, and I'm sure and I believe that the students will benefit the most, and the young teachers who are attending this session, from online reputation management to the data mining and the various ways and the future trends you have cited are amazing. So thank you so much for taking time out and sharing your thoughts, your ideas, your work experiences with us. Thank you so much, ma'am. And as I know that you will be rushing and you have to shift to a hotel due to some COVID issues there. So, ma'am, we are thankful to you for engaging us and interacting with us.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much. I wish everybody the best of luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, our viewers, moving on, I would like to request Shaili Arjani ma'am to tell us something about her experience, about herself, her work, so that the young minds who are attending this session, mostly they are, ma'am, they want to go into public relations, advertising, event management, content writing, and so related fields. And I'm being a journalist since last 22 years. I'm into the journalism field. I have worked with NDTV, Star, then News Nation, and a few newspapers also. So sometimes I also feel to learn this
Yeah.
emerging trend. And I can tell you
Yeah.
that in most of the universities and colleges, media institutes, majority of students are opting for PR and event management and advertising. So, ma'am, now it's over to you, and I would like request you to focus a little bit on event side also, so that we will be more interested and we will be aware of the things or the current trends and the future jobs. What kind of jobs are going to come? Over to you, ma'am.
Uh, Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll keep this short and thank you to everyone for giving me an opportunity. It's a wide topic, but without taking too much time, I will quickly cover this, in a quick way. The future, I've spent about 13 years in PR and 13 plus years in PR, and I have seen it from faxing press releases to going for media rounds. We've come to integrated or like Sharina has beautifully explained. We have come to a place where digital is leading the entire the whole stream currently. So most of the PR professionals, would need to be digitally ready. They would need to be more, they would need to be thinking of integrated campaigns. So I will definitely, touch upon events. But first, I'd like to definitely say that I'd like to request the students to think about more, more in terms of integrated campaigns, because PR is not just press releases. PR is not just writing authored articles. We're fast moving towards, a scenario where marketing and a PR is going to marry itself, and we're going to have much more campaigns which are highly integrated, and that will be leading the brand and the reputation management of a company. We'll also be seeing a lot of paid media. Like, so far people had thought of PR as only earned media. They would only look at PR, companies would think of PR as a way to boost their SEO and, get some earned media. That's not the case anymore. We're moving towards times where, marketing will marry itself with PR, and we'll create campaigns which are more purpose driven, which are more phygital, I would say. Because yes, definitely digital is there. We will definitely see campaigns going digital, but there will also be times when, like you clearly mentioned, that, events, experiences. A PR will also come into play to create experiences. For example, I would say Levi's did a very interesting thing, which was, driven really well by PR. Like, because of the pandemic, people couldn't go to the stores, so Levi's got the stores to people's houses. And that was a small activation done by Levi's. And you could see, like, people, it was there in PR. Like, it was there on most of the platforms. There was a article about it on most of the platforms. So that's how, PR will support the digital, the whole digital, or rather brands marketing efforts. So, we'll also see PR being more fluid, not being restricted to, just one segment, and being more cohesive. In fact, my panelist Amarpreet will definitely be able to, share more instances. But PR is not just going to remain focused on press releases, interviews, relationship meetings. No, it's going to be more cohesive as a unit. Also, like Sharina has mentioned previously, I would urge the students to look at the right tools, to look at technology, to look at Google Trends, and see, where, they can, what kind of, trends are being going on. Or, they need to even look at, different tools in terms of, there are many of them, in fact. There's
Yeah.
HubSpot, there's SEMrush. Look at, the keywords that are driving the campaign. So you do have to, go just beyond the textbook PR that, that we kind of think it is. Also, please, whenever, you're reading up online, think about purpose driven campaigns. Because
Yeah.
pandemic has created a whole scenario where people do not just want to, read press releases, or read, PR articles. They want to read about purpose driven activities that the brands are creating, like a Unilever, donating, for example, Unilever, in fact, getting into, like, it recently happened that they are coordinated with the Mumbai government, and they have given ventilators. So, something like that. People want to see what brands are doing, how are they helping. They don't want to just read up, just about a new technology coming in, because it has to be communicated in a more purpose driven way. How is it going to help the man on the street? So these things are very important. Also, when it comes to, if there's no coordination between marketing and PR, I think it's going to kind of fall flat. Secondly, content is the king. So please make sure that you get your content game. You come with the content game, and do not, you know, because we have to. What we write is definitely going to be making an impact. And now the content is becoming more and more bite size, because they don't want to read like 3 4 page or press releases. It has to be more bite size. It has to be more digitally ready. It has to have your keywords in place. It has to have your now these days we have to think of hashtags also. So we
Yeah.
have to think of, it's going from content writing to copywriting. So,
Yeah.
we have to be able to get our content game on the, like, please don't think of writing jargons with which the man on the street cannot read about. You have to keep your uh, y- uh, you have to definitely keep your words very, 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 like a layman can understand. Somebody who picks up your look at look at the kind of content that a BuzzFeed is generating or Scoop Whoop is generating. Why do we like reading that? Because it's crisp. It uses the right language, and we are able to like understand it easily. So I would say, look at how the content the Wire is generating, or look at the kind of content BuzzFeed is popular. So
Yeah.
just read the kind of those platforms that they have been generating. So that's what I would say. Also, it's very, yes, like you mentioned, event, yes. Unfortunately, all the events have come to it has not been the great year for events, but we can see
Yeah.
how webinars are being conducted. Like, we are all here in the same room from different parts of the country. So yes,
Yeah.
there are ways. I wouldn't say that the events are not going to happen. Yes, the events are going to happen, and event management is important. But think of an event where your audience is engaged. Like for example, if a fashion brand comes to you, do not just say that, okay, a runway show. Think of how you can create experiences, how those you can create a setup. Like for example, couple of years back, Gucci had done an entire, they'd shown their collection in a grocery store. Like, think,
Okay.
ask your client what is the budget, and think out of the box. Don't just just say, okay, runway is this way. No, that's not going to happen. Think how you can use it to engage your audiences. In fact, recently, Helsinki Fashion Week, because you can't do runway shows, Helsinki Fashion Week created an entire digitized, from digital models, etc. In fact, IIT Mumbai, recently,
Okay.
they did their graduation ceremony. you know
Hmm.
they had their it was completely digitized. So yeah, it you have to, I won't say, like, I know you have heard this word too many times before, that think out of the box. But think of, what, how you can, if there is a client brief, how you can make it, give it a spin, so that you create successful campaigns, and work with your marketing agency, because the marketing agency is going to have a perspective, and when the two
Hmm.
work together, you are able to create credible campaigns, great and great visibility. Thanks. That's all from my end.
Ma'am, there are many questions coming out, but I would like to ask one question. That
Yes.
you are into the industry from since such a long time, and
Yeah.
when young students, young aspiring minds are reaching you,
Hmm.
what is the gap you find there? Because that is most important, because many of our academic media teachers are also here. So I would like to focus on the gap, and to hear it from you will be the valuable suggestions we can create, or the roadmap we can create, ma'am. Yeah.
So, the thing is, interestingly, I know you've asked me the gap, but interestingly, I've been like, in fact, just yesterday, intern, like a person's internship got over, and fabulous. Those guys come up with fabulous ideas. They come up with something very interesting. They come with fresh thoughts. In fact, when we have pitch presentations, they are the guys who bring their A game onto the, onto the platform. So yes, like, the kids that have been coming for internships, or they've been joining us. There's some fantastic talent. The only
Okay.
thing, like, I'm just reiterating what I said before, that
Hmm.
when it comes to content, they aren't able, like, it's just there is a certain mindset that, okay, I have to write a press release. But how can
Hmm.
you make your press release, fun, engaging? How can you make it a little more casual? Like, you know,
Hmm.
I'm unfortunately, I manage only B2C clients, so I'm coming from that perspective. B2B is something, I haven't done extensively, but I would say that just try and think, just try and read, read up more, read what the other, uh, uh, like I mentioned, what BuzzFeed is writing. Read the kind of content like a Vogue.com is writing, or Vogue Business is writing, or depending on your client, find out who's the, find out the right platforms, read up. And in fact, also, it would be interesting to read how that brand is showcasing itself on social media. What are the keywords that they are constantly using? Because they would be using a certain keyword, when they're writing copies. So, think from the copy perspective rather than a content perspective. Because when you start thinking from the copy perspective, you're able to, communicate a lot in two three lines instead of writing a full paragraph on that, because unfortunately, sorry to say, but nobody has the time to read. Even when we are shown a caption on Facebook, if it's a long caption, we just write TLDR, too long, didn't read. So yeah, just think, how can you make your copy more effective rather than long, lengthy, boring.
And ma'am, one question has already come
Yeah.
from Sayantan Sen Gupta, that
Okay.
will the cost of technology-driven PR will increase in future, or it
Yes.
will go down? What will happen? Yeah.
Yes, definitely, Shantan. That's a very good question. Yes, it will increase. If you see tools like Meltwater, Sprout Social, some of these tools, like, I'm just saying, yeah, they're slowly getting. So in fact, there's Social Post, which is our own Indian tool. They're slowly getting slightly more expensive. So yes, the cost is going to be driven because it's a demand and supply market. That's the world that we live in. But yes, technology driven public relations, like those tools, they'll be expensive. But at the same point of time, I'm sorry, your question is cost of technology driven public relations. Yeah.
Yes.
So that, yes, but it also depends on what kind of services that you're offering. But these, if the tools are expensive, then obviously, as a planner, rather a media planner, you will have to put that cost when you're sharing a scope of work with the client and a budget estimate. So yes, that will be it will increase. The cost will increase.
Okay, another question is there, and Amarpreet sir, you can also answer if you feel like. It's open forum for all of us. What if the PR strategy backfires during a crisis? What is the best thing a PR agency or as an executive we should do? Mansingh Soren, one student has asked this. That in crisis management, what should be the immediate role of young person or the company?
Amarpreet, if you'd like to take this, or would you want me to attempt it?
No problem. So there've been a lot of cases, and you can bring them as references. And classically, I'm going to use examples of brands pre-COVID situation where they met, where there has been accusations on the brands, where people have shown health concerns. We know about popular chocolate brands, which face a similar problem. Then our favorite noodles face, 2 minute noodles face a similar problem. These brands are trapped in crisis. I think uh, fundamentally being honest and being true to your core is something that works for a brand. So if anything backfires, there's no harm in saying I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Amazing example, KFC, case in point. KFC
Yeah.
made a blunder. They came up with a superb campaign that worked, in their favor, and they said we made a mistake. We screwed up. We're sorry. So I think brands are no different than human beings. Brands are no different than us. Be chatting in a
Okay.
forum like this, and if we make mistakes, I'll tell you I'm sorry. Forgive me. That's it. They're just like friends. They're just like human beings, and I think that's the best thing. That's the fundamental philosophy that works for brands. So
Okay.
that would be my point of view.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, and thank you so much, ma'am. And
Thank you.
yeah, and I believe and firmly believe that all my students and students from other media colleges, universities who are attending this session will benefit from your talk. And all the academic people are also here, and certainly there is a takeaway from your talk. And I would like to request you to be with us for a few more minutes, and so that at the end of it we will have some more questions, as more and more questions are coming, and more than 2000 viewers are attached with us at this time on this forum, and this number is growing. So now moving on to advertising, I would request Amarpreet Singh ji to please, now stage is yours, and we would like to have your thoughts, your insights, and something about this particular area. Students are very hesitant. Sometimes they feel that, oh, advertising and PR is a easier job, they think, and advertising, no, it is very difficult. So please elaborate something, and we are now ready to listen to you. Over to you, sir.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here, and thank you all the fellow speakers. I'm really honored to be here. Let me just start by wishing all the teachers, mentors, panelists, and even the students a very happy Teachers Day. And I don't know whether this was by design or by chance that we happen to meet on a particular day like this. So before I begin my session, let me just share a few thoughts that flashed in my mind the moment you shared this topic with me, uh, Professor Sisodia. You remember, we spoke over the phone very briefly, and I asked you, what is your expectation out of me? And I'll be very honest, this is one of the most trending topics, that one catches in a industry or a education forum. And there's enough information about future predictions. There's a lot of data. We've seen some of that. There's a lot of forecasts and, everything. There's a lot of information overload already there as far as what the future stored for us as far as advertising and PR is concerned. So my intention for this talk is I do not want to repeat what my fellow panelists have already said and what folks have already been talking about, a larger context and what's the future of the industry going to be. I don't want to add to the information overload. In fact, what I'll do is something for the next 10 to 12 minutes, I'll try and do what we at Ogilvy are best known for, which is sharing stories. I'll try and put my perspective in interesting stories, trivia, and anecdotes that I have observed over these a few months, uh, experiences that I have heard, witnessed myself from colleagues and fellow friends. These stories covers lessons and methods and initiatives that we've, as an organization, as Ogilvy, we've used within our organization's framework to navigate through these tough times, and how we have customized and given newer solutions to our clients' problems. Of course, at the end of these little stories, what you get is a broader picture. How do you gear up for future, and what's the future stored in terms of, if you want to enter the field of advertising or PR. So let me
Yes, sir.
start with a fundamental truth. Disruption is something which is not new to the advertising world. In fact, disruption is not new to human race. We've all experienced disruption. We've all experienced crisis in some format or other. And the recent pre-COVID, there was a big crisis that the advertising agency, the industry, advertising and PR industry faced was the recession that happened in 2008. And if you guys remember, that was something that we were part of, and we've grown up with that crisis.
Mm.
But what's most interesting about COVID-19 is the sheer scale and impact of this particular crisis. And the second part is it's truly global nature. What I mean by that is the entire world has come under one umbrella. The entire world is facing the same problem. And so there's been a lot of bad and negative information. There's been a lot of losses in terms of life, in terms of job. So let me put it in a scale of economy and life. So there's been losses, financial as well as life losses. But what's interesting to observe, just as a fellow marketeer, is that this crisis has brought the best out of us, not only as human beings but even as professionals. And that's the
Yeah, true.
most amazing thing that is the gift of COVID, that it has given us. And I would like to share how COVID-19 and how this situation has brought the best out of us, the folks back in Ogilvy, and how we have geared up, and on the hindsight, how we have used our skills and how we've come together as one family and try to solve problems. So the first story that I would like to share is about the human side of us. And Let me try and elaborate that. What I mean by that is, this particular crisis has brought the human side or the purpose-led side of us, and it is true for agencies, and it's also true for brands. And words like support, family, empathy, understanding, appreciating each other, we've actually witnessed that, and I'm still witnessing that every day. In fact, let me share an interesting trivia with you. I saw my colleagues' kids for the first time over a Zoom call. I never been to his home. I didn't even know their name. But while we were chatting, while we were discussing ideas, the kids popped on the screen and we said, "Oh, hi." So, what has happened is we try, and we've been on the we're facing same crisis day in, day out. So if I have to request my fellow colleagues to shift a meeting or internal discussion because I have to do the household work, we understand the gravity of the situation, and we also empathize and appreciate, yes, I know your pain or I know this struggle. But this is more on the professional front, the internal human side, and it has so therefore, to sum it up, we've been supporting each other like a family. We're trying to understand and appreciate each other's problems, and accessibility is the key word I want to emphasize on this particular point. What I mean by that is our mentors and the icons at Ogilvy during these crises, we were able to access them anytime. And I'm talking about big people, big personalities, whom you could only hear and see them and just wave your hand. We could access them. They were available. They were available to solve our problem and our client's problem. So that's something which is amazing about the organization that I work for. And now let's just look at the brand side of it. What's interesting is brands have shown the human side. They stopped selling products. They stopped selling their services. Look at stay at home. Every brand was talking, every brand was telling you to just stay at home and they were entertaining you. So imagine the shift that has happened. They're no longer selling their products, they were no longer selling their services. They were not also boring, they were not even, threatening you with a stick that something will go wrong. In fact, they were entertaining you. So how forces like PR, how forces like content managers, creative side, everybody came together, collaborated, and created interesting content for consumers to stay back home. And case in point, back here in India, overseas, if you look at global brands like Nike, Cadbury, Asian Paints, how these brands stood up to the task, how they said stay at home, how they educated people about the importance of hygiene. Brands came forward and told you how to wash your hands. They were not trying to so they were not trying to sell anything. So they showed the human side of brands. And I think purpose has always been a theoretical word where we, as marketers, always we wanted to believe in purpose, but I think brands have exhibited and demonstrated purpose during this crisis. The second story that I want to talk about, or the second point that I want to talk about, is accepting reality and finding solutions. What I mean by that is we could figure out that we are in trouble. All of us knew that we are in trouble. As far as economy is concerned, as far as the industry is concerned, there was enough data that reflected that the numbers have gone down, brands are not spending, the demand side and the supply side got disrupted. We all knew that. But we shifted our focus. We were not contemplating on the problem. We said it's time to focus on solutions. What can I bring on table as a planner, as a strategist for my brand? How can I help solve the brand's immediate problem and focus on the long-term problem? So again, case in point, we made this practice. The seniors back in Ogilvy, they called the client. They said, how can I solve what is the problem that you're facing right now? And how can we solve that problem? And let it not be only advertising problem. We went to the extent that we solved problems which are beyond our purview, which were beyond the conventional definition of advertising. So we were solving human problems for the brand. We were solving, problems which are beyond the boundary, outside the boundary of advertising or communication. So that was something very amazing. And the moment we were able to shift our focus from problem to solution, that helped us. That was one magic formula that worked for us. Even at an internal I can, now vouch at this process, because from an internal point of view also, because the moment we were able to understand that solution is the only key driver that's going to take us, long way. So all our energies were spent very wisely.
Mm.
Uh, the third point that I want to narrate is the great Indian Jugaad, and we all know we are best at that. But the best part about this great Indian Jugaad is how we were all logged. Okay, we were logged in our back at our homes. The offices were shut. But in spite of all that, we were able to do market researches through telephonic conversation, through Zoom calls. We were able to produce great content, and we were able to produce great ads. The directors, producers, editors, so they did everything from their home. And I never thought that one could edit, a good, interesting advertising video back from home. But then they did it. We came together. The great Indian Jugaad worked for us, and it brought the best in us. I remember, as a planner, as a strategist, I spoke to n number of consumers during the pandemic, during the early couple of months, because I was a consumer, I was facing the crisis myself, and I also wanted to validate the emotions that I was going through. So I made calls, I made telephonic calls, we made video calls, and we just spoke to people. So that great Indian Jugaad helps us, produce some very interesting work. The fourth theme that I would like to uh, dwell upon is agile. We are a very big organization, and the more bigger you are in size, you become a little slow, because we are driven by processes. There are n number of processes that you have to solve, that you have to follow, both at the agency end and even at the client end. This crisis made us agile. We worked so fast. Our clients took snapshot decisions. We took up, we produced strategies in this 3 days, 4 days, something which I couldn't imagine maybe 6 months back or maybe a year back. So I think the key word that we learned was processes are good, but intuition works also pretty well. And we became very agile, and in fact, we've been following that model, that, the priority is solving clients' problem, produce solutions as fast as possible without really contemplating and trying to overthink. So we avoided words like overthinking. We gave up, emotions like chalega, nahi chalega, sulzhenge nahi sulzhenge. We followed our gut, and collective wisdom was a north star. At the heart of everything is technology. That's the fourth thing that I want to touch upon. So that's the fifth thing that I want to touch upon. Uh, Technology, and the biggest example is live example is something that's connected us with this video call, right? Technology has enabled us, during these 6 months, we've seen the power of technology, and we've realized how important, and how positively can we use technology. And let me just try and explain this from my agency's context as well. If you look at the technology adoption curve, there'll be some early adopters of technology, there'll be some laggards, and then there'll be some late, adopters of technology. COVID brought the laggards closer to the curve. So people who were,
True.
let's say, the silver-haired folks who avoided technology and who were not comfortable with a PowerPoint or a laptop, they started using technology. They started using PowerPoint. They started using Zoom, and they became more comfortable with the technology and platform itself. That was something so positive. And we, of course, the younger folks, we were we comfortable with technology, but technology worked for us in a very different way. We enhanced our skills, and trust me, my organization ensures that you develop your skills to the T. And during the COVID, there was access to a lot of information. We developed our skills. Till date, there are a lot of courses that we can subscribe to and learn from. So technology empowered us, not only solving clients' problems, but also upgrading us. So that's the and polishing old skills and developing new skills. So that was again the last thing that I wanted to talk about. At a personal level, how this has worked for me is I've been able to manage my time better. I have learned to say no. What I mean by no is I learned to say that okay, it stops here. I'm overloaded with work. Can we look at another slot, another time to solve this particular discussion or problem? I'm also asked to confess I don't know. We've learned to say I do not know. I need help. And the moment you confess that you don't know and you need help, it works wonders. People come together, they solve your problem, they try and teach you, they try and, you collaborate. And these words that we were only mentioning earlier, we've seen them working today in this context, in this scenario. So my proposition to the students and whoever is watching this particular session is that how can you use some skills like these and these tips to navigate and gear up for future? And how can you support each other? How can you show more empathy towards each other and understand and appreciate the pressures that we are going through? Even for teachers, when a teacher makes effort to some discuss about a topic or present anything, the kind of effort that goes behind that particular session is immense. So appreciating, understanding, coming together as family to solve problems. Can we shift focus from looking at problems to finding solutions? I think if we're able to do that, that'll work wonders for us. Can we be agile and more focused on our goals and objectives? Can we prioritize them? And can we embrace technology to learn new skills, polish existing and develop new skills? I think that's been an amazing. It wasn't there during my time. I didn't have those opportunities to subscribe to those online tools and online uh, skills and these tutorials. So you guys have this immense opportunity. Can you guys make use of that? And can you guys be champions of positivity? And can you guys be driven and inspire each other? I think if we are able to do that, no matter what is stored for us in near future, we'll be able to navigate through that and we'll come out with flying colors. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And sir, I would like to ask one thing, and one question is also there by
Yeah.
Mr. A.R. Pandey, that is infodemic, what people are calling, that during pandemic there is too much of information, too much
Yeah.
use of social media. All these things, are they impacting in a negative way on the advertising or PR strategies, or what is your take? Too much
Okay. So
information is also harmful to your campaigns, advertising campaigns or PR campaigns?
I don't think so because we must appreciate what is the source of information. Is the
Yeah.
information coming from brands or is it information that people like you and I are sharing on our social media platforms? So that's very important to understand. And I think on a brighter side, brands who've lived their true purpose, who've practiced their core, and who've communicated with fundamentals of truth and honesty, they have come out as flying colors during these crises. And there are n number of examples that I can share with you. And so therefore, I don't think so. Information overload comes from brands. It comes from us as collective experts. See, imagine a 3-year-old experience that also calls themselves experts. So that's the irony of the world that we are living in. So-called self-proclaimed experts, they share a lot of information with you. As a result, and see, Google also enables you to filter information. So that
Yeah.
wisdom we must apply at our end to figure out what is the source of information and how authentic it is.
Okay. Ma'am, there is a question from one student, Anurupa. How does organic PR is being used in e-commerce through persuasive marketing? How
That's a
does
good
organic
question.
PR? Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm, is being used for e-commerce marketing, right?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
That's the question, right? Okay. Good question. So the thing is, we've had some e-commerce clients, and how typically we go about them is use different tools like list to drive listicles, to do a lot more blogs, because the it's important to involve the CTA into it. So if there's a CTA where you can, take the consumer who's reading that article to the landing page of that product, it's definitely helpful. So we use different tools, but they are highly content driven tools. But what we do is we create listicles like the form of BuzzFeed. Again, I'm going back to that because that's the best way I can explain. But that is one tool that we use, and the other tool we use is blog writing. Then we can create like the top five products you can buy this season, top five gifts for Diwali, etc., etc. You can create this kind of interesting content so that the user reads it. There's a use case for that product that you are giving, and sometimes when you want to talk about the sites, then top 5 sites you can visit to purchase this particular shirt or shoe. So that's how, and there should always be a CTA, because the CTA leads to the your landing page, and you can get more people to purchase the product. The other way you can do is influencer engagement. You can pick out influencers, you can get the influencers to talk about how this, but that's a paid way, that's not going to be organic. But you can use involved influencers also.
Okay, ma'am, one question is there, and I also feel that our students are there in the audience, and as a teacher, most of the teachers who are attending this session also, and as a viewers also, and this is a common practice. Most of the time, we ask students to read newspapers or watch news bulletins, and from first semester till sixth semester we try to do that, and 50% of them, they don't listen. They say that I have to go to PR, I have to go to advertising, I have to go to film making and all those things. Why do I need to read newspapers or know all these things? Then ma'am, I would like to request you both to enlighten them with some of your takes, that how important is this, and really is it important for your area? Because I am from a journalistic background, so I have to, and it's a habit for me to read 2 3 newspapers minimum, watch bulletins, and wherever there is a news, I get excited to watch. What is your take, ma'am, and your advice to the young minds here?
Um, so I cannot emphasize, reading. Like I just cannot. In fact, when I was, explaining to, the students how integrated marketing, campaigns are important. You are never going to know about them unless and until you don't read. And in fact, I would go beyond newspapers, and I would say read blogs, spend time reading, because read it, when you read something new, you're going to learn something new. Like I start my day reading Economic Times, like it's just been my routine. I start my day,
Yes.
and I can't, it's going to give you a perspective. It's going to help you with knowledge development. It will give you insights into, okay, what your competition is doing, because there's no other way you're going to be able to find out, unless, I mean, Facebook scrolling, Instagram scrolling is great. Yes, you should be doing that, but you shouldn't just do that to know, okay, where is my friend, what did she do this weekend? No, you have to read the copies. You have to see how, brands are, using interesting, how, like, Kylie Jenner launched her new makeup line through Insta filter. You have to bring those insights. And when you go to a client meeting, I mean, Amarpreet will back me up in this, but when you go to a client meeting, you don't want to be caught off guard where the client says, hey, do you know that new campaign, this, the competition did this, and why didn't you inform me? And you would be like, oh yeah, because I didn't read it. So yeah, please don't do that. Please read more. Please also watch, please go beyond Republic, and yes, please watch CNBC TV 18, because that's very important. I mean, yeah, yeah, great. We want to all know what Arnab Goswami is saying, but yeah, we should also know what what's happening on CNBC, how the stocks are doing. I cannot emphasize how much you'll learn more when you will watch these bulletins that I was talking about, because when you're watching that, you'll know, okay, why a certain stock is doing well. Please, that is something very important you should know. I mean, I it, I started my career thinking, why do I need to watch CNBC TV 18? But now in my career, I know, okay, why the client is saying that, okay, push more campaigns. If a pharma client is saying push more campaigns, yeah, because the stock market also, that kind of plays an important role. So yeah, I'll let Amarpreet add into this.
Yeah, Amarpreet sir.
Yeah, in fact, yeah, she's touched upon a very important point, which is market intelligence and knowing about what competition is doing. And there's no iota of doubt, that newspaper or watching news, consuming news online helps you do that. I think apart from that, as a planner, as a strategist, what I would just like to add to what she said is that you also get very interesting insights as far as consumers are concerned. What's happening in the nation. When you look at editorials, then you get point of views on, how people are thinking, what are the new tension points, that are disturbing people. Because end of the day, we are in a field called communication, and we are here to solve problems by connecting with people through
Yes.
emotions. If you want to connect with people, how would you be able to connect with people if you do not know what's disturbing them and what are the emotions that they are going through? And I think newspapers are imperative for you as a professional, even as a student, even as a human being. I mean, I come from Calcutta, which is a place where they have nukkads, where they have, adda sessions and people discuss on topics. So you won't be interesting if you do not know what's happening around you. As a person, you will not come, nobody will take you seriously,
Yeah,
because
that is the point. Yeah.
end of the day, we want to have conversations with fellow colleagues or friends that enrich us as well. You know, without sounding very transactional, I don't mean that every conversation needs to be, a source of gain for you. But all I mean is that it's become a part of our life, and you can't avoid newspapers or information that flows through digital or various other platforms. That's my point
And
of view on that.
thank you, sir. And ma'am, one takeaway from your talk, and you and Amarpreet, that as a communication expert or a aspiring media professional, if we are going to public relation, event management, and advertising, number one, we should read newspapers, and at least one or two financial newspapers, and we should also watch your business channels also. That is one take, I think.
Yeah,
Okay, ma'am, I will implement this in my university and in my department from Monday onwards.
sounds great.
That's a good way of pushing what you feel through us.
Yes, sir. And so one more thing, because many of young media teachers are also here, and someone is from Kerala, someone is from Trivandrum, Mizoram, and Northeast also, and Ranchi, Patna, Banaras. There are few who want to know that as a media teacher of public relation, advertising, event management, how to enrich ourselves, what kind of newspapers, what kind of websites, or what kind of reading material or e-resources we should adapt, or how we can develop ourselves.
So do you want to go take a go at
Shelly
that,
ma'am?
Sally, or do you want me to address it?
I thought, this was for
Okay,
you.
sure, no problem. I
Sorry.
will do that. No problem. So, my answer to your question, sir, is that twofold. It's very important for us to, again, there's a lot of choice and options that you have. So when you look at two graphs, there's the choice goes really high. You've got plenty of choices, and you don't have time. There's a deficit of time. So out of these choices of accessibility, one needs to be very wise in decision making. So maybe if you are able to access one national newspaper in the Indian context, I don't want to be biased towards any brand, but a very pick one of those popular newspapers, top two, top three. There are a lot of data that can substantiate which are working and which aren't working. So be wise in choosing one of them. And it's also important to sharpen your skills as a marketer, and even from the language point of view. So if you look at international newspapers, like there are series of newspapers, magazines that I have subscribed on a personal base, on a personal note. And of course, the organization ensures that I have got access to most of them. But what I mean is, if you want to enrich yourself as a marketing professional, as an advertiser or a PR professional, you should also pick up a couple of these international newspapers or maybe magazines, all these global magazines. They really help you sharpen your skills at a content level, so you will be familiar with the right words and the language and lingo, and you'll be guided by them to apply them in the right way. So I think that's very important. Apart from the knowledge and information that you uh, get access to, that's a uh, different thing that comes. That's a bonus point that comes altogether.
Shaili ma'am, one thing I would like to request, that many students are asking that which websites they should visit as a PR student or event management student on a regular basis to get the industry updates
Uh,
or
I would
trends.
definitely, yeah. So the thing is, like when I started off my career, I know, I mean, all PR and advertising professionals do that. I would spend my time on AFAX. I started my, I'm afraid to relates to this. I started my career, I would every day in the morning after reading newspapers, I would go to AFAX and, just see what was saying, who was saying what, exchange for media, because we didn't have Ad Age and the others at that point of time, like Ad Gully and all wasn't there. So, AFAX brought me, like, it brought me so much knowledge. Like, it opened my eyes to like different campaigns, and every morning I would see, okay, what press release has been uploaded, who's saying what, who's talking from Ogilvy or who's talking from Lowlantis. There was always this, it gave me a lot of knowledge on how different campaigns were being integrated. And I still, like, if I ever these days stumble upon AFAX or Exchange for Media, I do spend my time there because it really makes you understand, from brand perspective. Yeah, another good website is definitely, I would say LiveMint. LiveMint has interestingly gone from just being a platform for financial news to, like, it's very interesting the way they have done. In fact, they've started podcast also now. So, it's podcast is something I would again recommend, that, listen to podcasts. Podcasts are a very interesting form of content that has come up, and Mint is doing a fabulous job. And no wonder, Wall Street Journal had a collaboration with that particular website, because the way they write their analytical pieces are very interesting. And the other one, it's a paid platform, but you can also try their free version, because they do upload interesting stories, is the Ken and the Morning Context. These two particular websites they give a very analytical and great way. They deep dive into each company. They'll deep dive, like, they did with a Cred and other brands. Those are really good, knowledge building websites. They will give you a perspective about India in corporate and some of the startups, and it's interesting what they've done. They've changed the way, websites work in terms of content.
Yeah, Amarpreet sir, anything from your side?
Yeah, so my favorite would be what AFAX, what Shaili just shared, and then I would like to add maybe Campaign Asia. That again gives you a Asian perspective when there is Ad Age and number of sites. I think it's more it's a personal drive that helps you explore what's stored on the internet, and you have to be driven. So my recommendations and your recommendations are Shali's recommendations would only be a bird's eye view. I think you also have to become familiar with that platform, and
Yes.
every person. So each to his own choices, and what suits you, I think, is works best for you. So, but apart from that, there are a lot of popular sites what we've mentioned, and people can access them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And again, I would like to remind all my viewers, all the participants who have joined us, that Shelly Arjani ma'am and Amarpreet Singh, they are the real person, real experts who are working with the most reputed and one of the largest companies in the world of PR and advertising, and as a creative agency, be it so many new things to learn from them. This is just to conclude. I would like to request you to just give two tips to young minds who are ready to enter, final year students who are just ready, awaiting their results, and now they are going to enter the industry. And just after that, I will hand over this session to Chitralekha ma'am, the Secretary PRSI Kolkata chapter. Just few tips, two
I
important
think
tips.
the biggest, yeah, yeah. I
Yes,
think
yes,
the
continue.
best mantra that worked for me was one of my mentors during my early days told me that be passionately curious. And I think if you don't love advertising, if you don't love, I can actually say about advertising, I'm sure PR also would, it'll be same for PR. If you do not love it, don't be in the profession, honestly, because it's not going to pay you much. And when you look at the Maslow's need pyramid, so the basic need would be self-actualization if you are about to enter advertising, because you're driven by sheer passion, you're driven by emotions, love for storytelling, and whatever your call is. So the first step would be passionately curious about your profession, about the world, not just marketing or advertising or PR, but about the world. I think with curiosity, you will stumble upon a lot of new avenues. And do what you love. If you do not love advertising, my humble request is do not enter the profession. So because honestly, from my point
Yes,
of view,
true.
from my point of view, to me, what ads are is what theater and movies are to some people. I really love, and sounds like a cliche, but honestly, for me, I get my kick out of advertising, not out of movies or theater. So if you do not love advertising, don't be in the profession. That's what I would request.
True, sir. Ma'am,
I would just say that, we are in a very abnormal situation. So, when these guys are going to graduate and go in and, join these places, they're not going to, meet their colleagues. We're still, in fact, some parts of the country are still under a lockdown. So I'd say just go with the flow, and I would definitely second what Amarpreet is saying, that it stands true for PR. PR is a thankless, unfortunately, it's a thankless profession. The clients are also behind, your life, and then there's journalists that, you're pitching your stories to, and sometimes you'll put all your hard work and your story won't appear. So yes, you're going to go through a lot of disappointments, and you're going to go through the whole, I think each and every industry has its own thing. So, you're going to go through a lot of emotions, but just hang on. Do not let one single wrong like a client feedback change your mind about the industry. But at the same point of time, be ready to face the music and be passionate about it, because yes, if you're not, you're going to be very easily, you're going to say, okay, I give up, I'm not fit, and you're going to second guess yourself. So just go with the flow, enjoy it. Do not let anything or anybody say that, okay, you're not fit for this industry, because if you love it, then of course you're welcome to this industry.
thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. And on the day of Teachers' Day, really so many new things to learn, enrich our knowledge, and just to implement all these things to road to success. What else I could say? Now I would like to request Chitralekha ma'am and thank PRSI for giving me this opportunity to interact with eminent speakers. And now over to you, Chitralekha ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Sisodia. We apologize for the initial technical glitches, but I am sure you all have enjoyed the fantastic content and ideas shared by our speakers. We thank our speakers Amarjit Singh, Sharina Kapani, and Shaili Arjani for such an enriching session. I would like to thank Professor Sisodia for not only being such a wonderful moderator, but also for guiding the students of Amity University, Kolkata, who have worked with us with such great energy in organizing this webinar. We are grateful to the students and faculties of the institution. The session has been engaging and interactive. Coming to analytics, today's Facebook Live has reached close to 6,000 people, more than thousands of views, and 900 active engagement. Hundreds of people have liked and shared. Thank you, dear audience, for being with us throughout. And with this, we conclude our today's session. Please follow our Facebook page for more updates on our webinar series. Until next time, good night.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
guys.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Thank you.